Distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen, and friends from overseas as well. We're delighted to be able to now move into what has been properly termed the inaugural of this Colombo International Maritime and Logistics Conference. I used that kind of expression by virtue of the fact that the activity connected with this began earlier, the inaugural now, but the plenary sessions did begin in the afternoon at 1:30. And of course, further sessions will continue through the day tomorrow. But the inaugural right now. And we're very happy to have with us our patron, Deshamanya Karu Jayasuriya, and our chief guest on this occasion is the Honorable Minister of Ports, Shipping and Aviation, Mr. Nimal Siripala de Silva. And we also have our guest of honor in the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Mr. Ali Sabri. So, we recognize that there is gain in this kind of conference. Consider the theme. The theme is connecting oceans, creating value chains. So this is not an isolated thing or of the people in the community, the professionals, the shippers here thinking of just themselves, but rather toward the wider world. So we would like to think of this as an international event, and we'll hear more of that in just a short while. But right now, we will begin with a little focus, and dare we do that, a focus on ourselves. This is a song, and you might recognize the tune and the song, but it has been kind of shaped for us. The song is called My Sri Lanka. And in all good faith, we must mention that Mr. Alston Koch, or Koch as the Germans would say, Alston, our own man in Australia, is the one who created this. And maybe somebody else inspired him to create it. But here now we have a version by one of our own, Jerome Speldwind.
I've been to cities that never close down, from New York to Rio and old London town. But no matter how far, how wide I roam, I still call Sri Lanka home. I'm always traveling, I love being free, so I keep leaving the sun and the sea. But my heart lies waiting over the phone. I still call Sri Lanka home. All the sons and daughters spinning round the world, away from their family and friends. But as the world gets older and colder, it's good to know where your journey ends. And someday we'll all be together once more, when all of the ships come back to the shore. I realized something that I've always known. I still call Sri Lanka, oh, I still call Sri Lanka, I still call Sri Lanka home. Thank you very much.
I didn't quite expect to see my portrait there, but there we are. There's a certain poignance that was brought into the reading of the lyric. Thank you very much, Jerome. As we might say in the Gama, Hangim Bara. So there we are. Now we're going to focus on things that matter with regard to the conference. So I would like at this juncture to invite the chairman of the organizing committee of this conference, Mr. Rohan Masakorla. And Rohan, you have a word or two or more to share with this audience.
Members of the diplomatic community, invitees from the government and the private sector, and my colleagues from the industry. First of all, I must say that the song that you heard was first heard by me at the International Chamber of Commerce, where Mr. Dinesh Veerakkodi, I think he's seated somewhere here. Yes, Dinesh is here. He got Alston to come and sing that song. It's about my Sri Lanka. We know my Sri Lanka is slightly bleeding now. Our mother is slightly bleeding. It's a painful thing for anybody to see your country having some problems. So, honorable ministers, patron knows that what I did from 2015, trying to promote Sri Lanka as a destination for shipping and logistics, beyond, of course, tourism, apparel, and everything that is established. I am not happy for what we are today, but I will never give up of trying to promote Sri Lanka because it's a destination of marvel. It's an unpolished gem, and we cannot give up on it. So in 2019, when we had the last conference, I would like to show the video of some of the conferences we had. Before I proceed, just a minute for you. We actually inaugurated in 2015. There's some more, I think. That's a bit of a history. I think our current president himself has come and inaugurated one of the sessions. We have had one in Mumbai with the Indian Shipping Minister inaugurating, and we also had one in Dhaka in 2018 where Honorable Sheikh Hasina inaugurated the event. So I'm proud that I have taken this conference beyond the shores of Sri Lanka to promote Sri Lanka and regional partnerships, to build regional partnerships. So This time, in 2019, when we had it, we had the unfortunate Easter bombing in April when we were planning for it. And again, we didn't give up. We had it in August 1st with the 40th anniversary of the Sri Lanka Ports Authority. And we had the absolute successful event even after the Easter bombing, because negative news was again going on Sri Lanka, which we didn't want to accept because some of the media reports internationally were wrong. Now again, of course, we are in a difficult situation. Internationally, our image has been tarnished. We don't have to be shy about it. We need to correct it. And there are perceptions that are very wrong. I understood from my Indian colleagues who are about 30, 40 here, when they came here today, they realized, oh, it's not what they saw. It's something different. We are not in a situation that is what like reported. And I want to build that image. And this conference, again, we decided with my team that we'll go ahead and organize after 2 years of COVID and a situation where we are in a bit of a troubled time. So give me a little bit of 2-3 minutes to make a small presentation of what I would like the audience to see. Yeah, so this is the message from Honorable President, who was planning to come, but I think he was informed our patron that he won't be able to come today. So he's talking of logistics as a new pillar of economic development in his message, and he has been talking this at the OPA, at the Advocata, and it's encouraging for us in the logistics and shipping industry. The head of state has recognized Sri Lanka as one of the opportunities that it can transform this country to a new area where prosperity can be brought in. And he has promised any entry barriers, any negative connotations will be removed under his administration. And today's papers carried this article, probably you would have seen. I just wanted to show because he's not here. So can I also ask, I think you saw there was no traditional oil lamp, but in our case we go digital. I would like to request the audience to stand for 1 minute and have a little bit of silence in remembering our all heroes who laid their lives for Sri Lanka, and remember them on this occasion. So may I please request you to stand for 1 minute and remember them. Thank you. Thank you very much. I want you all to have a look at this slide. I have a dream. I think if you read today's newspapers, my message is, I too have a dream. We have had historically a trading hub. We talk about thousands of years. Sri Lanka has been a trading hub in the Indian Ocean. But what has happened to us since independence? You can look at it. 1971 was born United Arab Emirates. 1965 was born Singapore. 1948, the oldest among the 3 hubs in the Indian Ocean, we were born first as an independent republic later, but as an independent state. Now you can see the size of the economies. I'm not going to read the numbers. I'll give you 20 seconds, 30 seconds to look at the numbers. These numbers speaks a lot. A lot. 2 small economies, one is an island, one is a desert state, is today ranking among the top in the world. But I personally think we are in a better location. But what has happened to us? Something is missing, honorable ministers. Today, I think the ball is in your court under this severe economic stress to transform this country. And this is one area the Honorable President has identified. And we need to move fast to get into some of these numbers corrected. We are not people who should be having a 3,800 per capita income. Our people should have been doing much better. I don't want to blame the fast. It's a waste of time. Water under the bridge, we can talk a lot. But look at the opportunity for us in the future. So our Minister of Shipping is here, Minister of Foreign Affairs is here, and of course our patron is here who knows about this subject, who has an export-import background. So we need to get there. Next slide. These are two ministers I worked very closely in my lifetime. Even Mr. Ronnie DeMelli is still around. I go and see him very often. They were finance ministers, they were shipping ministers, and my bosses. Of course, Ronnie, not Mangala. Mangala was a close friend. They did try to transform this country very strongly, both of them. But you can see the underlying statement I have made. Effort for transformation logistics failed with two strong pillars. Why? Barriers to entry and lack of reforms on time. Even today, the Ports Authority, Honorable Minister, you know, we have not had enough capacity on time, so we are suffering because of that. So these two stalwarts tried their best. Unfortunately, Samaravira left us about a year back. I must recall him. He's a great friend. So now, again, I would say, Minister Sabri, Minister Siripala, there is a huge task for us to build this country. And this is an area which we can do it. Some people think that when I say this, I should not talk about it, but facts are stubborn. I would like to say, when you build a maritime state, you need all of this, not just a location. Just a location won't bring all the ships here and the services here. We need foreign investment, we need new technology, we need new investment, we need new industry. So I think that's the whole theme for me, to organize these kinds of events to Sri Lanka, bring in foreign speakers, talk about their experiences, and to get our mindset change, because everybody talks about a mindset change, and if we don't walk the talk now, I don't know how long I can have maritime conferences in Sri Lanka. So with that note, I would like to thank ministers for coming in here and everybody for coming in here. I hope you understand my genuine feeling for what I want to do for this country. I may succeed, I may not succeed, but I can always say I tried. Thank you very much.
Clearly, Rohan Masakorala is a feisty advocate, not in the promotion either of himself or of whatever business he does, I hardly know, but of the country, yes. I think that has been now fairly well underscored by what he had to share with us. And we no doubt have a sense of an emotional link with the words that were spoken. Now, as he mentioned, Deshamanya Karu Jayasuriya is the patron of the Shippers Academy, or should I say this particular conference, isn't it? The conference, yes. And he does hold that position with knowledge. He has had a background as a professional in the realm of logistics and transportation. So I'd like to hear from you, sir.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. May I greet our distinguished foreign visitors by saying Aiboan, which means may you have long life. Chief guest, Honorable Minister of Ports and Shipping and Aviation, Honorable Nimal Siripala de Silva. Guest of honor, Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Honorable Ali Sabri, Chairman of the Organizing Committee, Mr. Rohan Masakorala, Your Excellencies and members of the Diplomatic Corps, and senior government officials, international guests and speakers, ladies and gentlemen, and friends from the media. It is indeed a pleasure to be with you this evening. I have been associated with this conference as its patron since its inception in 2015. This is the 6th edition of the conference. I know the chairman of the organizing committee, Rohan, has been very passionate and dedicated to promote the shipping and logistics sectors and make Sri Lanka a great global shipping and a logistics hub second to none. And from 2015, he has been talking about it as his dream. I wish you good luck, Rohan. I too, having a background from exports and shipping industry from 1965 until my advent into diplomacy and politics in 1990s. So I'm a little outdated or old-fashioned as far as the development of shipping is concerned, but indeed it's something very dear to my heart. Sri Lanka has not used its fullest potential, although we have great location in the Indian Ocean. It is said that when the God created the world, the Sri Lanka or the Ceylon or Tambapani have been located geographically at the right place, and we are not making use of it. This is where we need to put our efforts and where we need to create a greater freedom for international business and global companies to come, invest, and transform Sri Lanka. With reforms from the government, it will induce investors to invest stage by stage with greater confidence in our ports and in all other logistic industry, because policies are being modernized to suit the current market demands. We know we are located next to the massive emerging market of India and adjacent to the east-west shipping lane, so it is in our hands to transform the location with global giants in the industry. Unless we create a very competitive and open business model to attract investment, we must ask ourselves, why should global shipping giants and logistic companies come to Sri Lanka when our competitors who are already well established and are giving more freedom for business and opportunities in those countries? At a time when our economy is at crossroads with multiple challenges, can we be giving it selective choices for global giants, as we call ourselves a free economy, and put conditions on our terms as entry barriers? We need to be business-friendly and investor-friendly than ever before under the current circumstances. The current government has a massive responsibility and must change the traditional thinking if we are to move forward to establish a global hub. I can recall late Minister Mangala Samaravira making that attempt to change the mindset to create full business freedom to international ship and logistics owners in 2017. He was very keen on that, and several occasions he spoke with us. They are our valuable clients and also the owners of business who support our trade growth and bring transformation to business to our ports that help our economy and create employment. In the past, President Ranil Wickremesinghe too has taken part in this conference, and is a strong believer in freedom of business, and I was informed that due to other commitments, he was unable to attend today, though he believes in developing the shipping industry for even the next generation. This conference has not been restricted to Sri Lanka, but Rohan has taken it beyond the country and held events in India and Bangladesh, where shipping ministers of India and Prime Minister of Bangladesh inaugurated, same in 2017 in Bombay and 2018 in Dhaka, respectively. The CIMLC conference have attracted large number of delegates and speakers over the years and have got support from UN agencies and other global institutions. I have seen the high standards brought in by this event and also bringing in new thinking to the industry to make shipping and logistics a key pillar to Sri Lanka regional economies, Sri Lanka's regional economic growth, and help our country to use its geographic position to support global maritime and supply chain industries through development of the overall logistics sector. I also recall after unfortunate Easter bombing, the organizers did not give up but held a large event in August 2019, which was a resoundingly successful event, which also helped to rebuild country image and develop the tourism industry. This time too, Rohan has taken the challenge and called me a few months back and said that under tough economic conditions, he wants to do this conference as too much of wrong and negative information and bad publicity is going around the world, which was damaging to country's interests. The supply chain industry in Sri Lanka has been working well, specifically our port sector and exporters, even during the hardest time of COVID-19. I must commend this effort is coming with genuine intention to make our country a different nation. The next generation has to have a better life, and even the President recently mentioned twice at Advocata and OPA that logistics is a new pillar of economic growth. I think we are very happy that we have the Honorable Minister of Shipping and Minister of Foreign Affairs, who between themselves have a great role to play and help the shipping industry take it to new heights. Our future lies in the shipping. Special thank you to the speakers and delegates for the support extended to make this event happen. I take this opportunity to thank the organizers for inviting me to be the patron in the event again, and my fullest support and cooperation will be with you. I thank you for the courtesy of your attention. Have a good evening.
Thank you too, Mr. Jayasuriya, for your hearty endorsement of what went before and also with relevance to this conference this year and the rationale for it. We are pleased to have with us on this occasion the Economic Affairs Officer in the Transport Section and the Trade Logistics Branch of UNCTAD. And Mr. Hidenobu Tokuda will be dealing with a very interesting topic that runs parallel with what we have heard thus far. This is the theme: country port and inter-country trends and comparison.
Good evening, everyone. And first, I thank you and thank the organizer for inviting me for this very prestigious conference in this important period. So, as I am Hidenobu Tokuda, and I'm working for the UNCTAD. So, I want to introduce our UNCTAD's work on shipping connectivity and to highlight the importance of Sri Lanka and South Asia in the global shipping industry. And especially I want to highlight that in our data set, Sri Lanka and South Asia are performing better than other regions during this pandemic period. So I want to explain it in my presentation. But before that, I just want to briefly introduce our work on the maritime logistics work. So we have several work in this sector, but maybe some of you may know about Ashikuda. It's an electronic single window system. So, and so we have a team about Ashikuda, and I think Ashikuda team has been working with Sri Lanka. And we have a team about transport infrastructure and trade facilitation and transport policy legislation. Also, we have a we are working on data development. Maybe I heard some speakers before mentioned about quoted the data provided by us, so maybe some of you already know it. So, but importantly, I want to, maybe it is useful for you to know that we are providing maritime transport profile in our website. So this is just an example of our website. Sorry, it's a screenshot, so it's a little bit difficult to see, but this is about Sri Lanka's maritime profile, and there is a long blue line there. It is about seafarer supplies, and the next red lines are showing container cargo throughput in Sri Lanka. So this is about the share of these numbers of the Sri Lanka in world total. So this is showing Sri Lankan share. So if we compare it as a variables, clearly it is showing the very strong relative advantage of Sri Lanka in seafarer supply and also container ports. And today I want to use this liner shipping connectivity index. Maybe some of you already know it, but importantly, this index we have at 3 levels. So it's economy, port, and country pairs. You may know economy level, but we also have more detailed data at port. It has about 1,300 ports, and also we have a country pairs. So it is like more than 10,000 pairs, because we have 180 economies times 179 economy pairs. So this will enable us to analyze the connectivity in more detail. So I will skip this, but importantly, our indicator has 6 components. So I will come back to this point later. And this slide is showing the current snapshot about our LSCI connectivity indicator. So this is about the top 30 economies. We have 176 economies in total, so this is just the top 30. So the first one is, of course, China's, and it is widening its lead in recent years. And the first 4 countries, all of them are from Asia, especially East and Southeast Asia, and the next one is USA, and 6 to 9 is Europe. So all of them are on the main trading route from China to Europe or to US. And whereas Sri Lanka, it's the first country in South Asia, and also it is 19th rank in globally out of 176. So it is I think it is a remarkable performance, but also it is followed by India. India is 25th. And we have, as I said, we have bilateral data. So the left-hand side is about Sri Lanka's connectivity with other countries. So Sri Lanka has the strongest connectivity with Malaysia, followed by China, UK, Germany, so these are Europeans. And this is India. India has the strongest connectivity with Singapore, followed by Sri Lanka, China, UAE, Saudi Arabia. And this is about the port level data. So Colombo has the strongest connectivity with Singapore, Shanghai, Ningbo, and also there is Indian ports, Nhava Sheva, and also Mundra is there. I'm showing also Mundra, Nhava Sheva there, but maybe this will be more visible to capture the entire picture. So this is about Sri Lanka's connectivity with other ports. So strong lines show the strong connectivity. So it has a strong connectivity with East Asian region like China and Southeast Malaysia, Singapore, and of course with India and some countries in Middle East and also Europe, and also there is strong connectivity with Ghana and USA. But there is almost no connectivity with South America or Oceania. And this is about Indian version, but it is showing a similar trend. And this focuses on the South Asia region. So left-hand side is showing global connections with, so for example, this line shows Colombo's connectivity with global other regions, and this is showing only intra-regional, so regional connections. So combination of this chart is showing the Colombo's global hub and also a regional hub. But what I wanted to show is a recent trend. So this is about the South Asian countries' connectivity trend. So clearly, Sri Lanka and India is leading the connectivity improvement. This is at port level, but the same thing. It's Colombo, Mundra, Nhava Sheva is leading the improvement. But in order to show the importance of improvement, so this improvement is really remarkable. So, but in order to explain it, I must explain first about the world average. So this is global average of the LSCI index. The left side is the world average of our index, and I am showing the just two components of this index. So so in the beginning I said our index has 6 components, but I am showing just 2 of them here. So the middle part is about max ship capacity, and the right side is direct shipping services. So in this chart, we can see that max ship capacity is increasing, but the number of shipping services is declining a little bit. So why this is happening? I think you already know the reason. So major shipping liner companies are increasing their capacity, but at the same time, they are consolidating their services, especially after the global financial crisis in 2009. They are trying to reduce they are forming alliances, and it is resulted in the decline in number of shipping services. So this is global trend. But the important thing to mention is that Sri Lanka and India is still increasing the number of shipping services, and especially this COVID crisis period, many countries reduced their services because of the congestions. Liner shipping companies wanted to skip some of the ports to improve efficiency, but Sri Lanka and India has been doing well during this period. And of course, this is because of the good location and also because of the investment. Especially India has been investing some port infrastructure, so it resulted in this kind of improvement. This is also showing the same thing, but just as a regional average. So as you can see, only South Asia has a very vivid improvement, but the other regions like North America, East Asia is almost flat. Central America has some improvement, but South Asia is more remarkable. This is showing which connections are strengthened. So Sri Lanka has strengthened connection with China and India strengths with Sri Lanka and Saudi Arabia, UAE. This is showing the same trend in visually, so this is showing, so strong lines shows improvement in connection with Sri Lanka to India to China, but there is also an improvement with some European and Ghana, some Southeast Asia. This is India's version. Mainly it is the same thing, but there is some red lines. Red line indicates reduction, so in India's version there is some reduction in the connectivity. This is just some reason, but I think you know more than me about what's happening in the region. So finally, I want to just introduce our new review of maritime transport report. So this is our flagship report, and it includes analysis, of course, about connectivity, but also sustainability issues like CO2 emissions, or we have analysis about the impact of war in Ukraine. And in this year, we have a special chapter about the market competition issue in the shipping market. It will be launched in this end of this month, so please check this review of maritime transport in this November. I'm just showing some other toolkits we developed recently. So we have some guidebook for resilient maritime logistics. This is based on our experience during the COVID-19. So one of my colleagues worked with ports around the globe. We worked with Latin America, Asia, and African region, and based on this experience, we developed a guidebook for resilient maritime logistics. So maybe if you are interested, please visit this website. Also, we have some web portal about sustainable fleet transport assessment methodology. Finally, we have a Twitter account about transport logistics. But just as a caveat, UNCTAD has many Twitter accounts because several teams have each own Twitter account, so there are too many accounts. But our account about transport logistics is TLB. It means Trade Logistics Branch. So if you are interested, please follow this Twitter account. And if I search for Sri Lanka, our account tweeted about it 1 year ago. It was about Ashihab. It was sister system of Ashkuda. So, and there are many other tweets about transport, trade, logistics issues. So, thank you so much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Hidenobu Tokuda, for sharing with us all of those figures and statistics. And I think they are powerful evidence that what was spoken earlier by Rohan Masukorla is kind of held up. We do appreciate that there are advantages that can accrue, even if they haven't already. Well, the possibilities are there. Now, Mr. Ravi Ramprasad is the editor-in-chief of Gateway Media. And he too is a firm friend of Sri Lanka, and what the possibilities are well known. And so the South Asia Container Market Report will be shared by him. So, Ravi Ramprasad.
Honorable Ministers, dignitaries, industry friends from Sri Lanka and overseas, ladies and gentlemen, a very good evening to all of you. It's always a pleasure to be in Colombo. Colombo is very close to our heart, and I thank Rohan for inviting me to this 6th edition of CIMC, and also giving me this privilege of making a short presentation on the South Asia container market. So just to give you an introduction, we have been publishing this magazine for the last 15 years from India, focused on India and the South Asian region, which is globally circulated. And we also connect a lot of governments, industry associations, bring them to several platforms, not only in India, but across the South Asia and Southeast Asia. A while ago, Rohan mentioned about the India and Dhaka, two conferences in 2017 and 18. We collaborated with Rohan, and the first South Asia Maritime and Logistics Conference was held in Mumbai. Later, it was taken to Colombo, which you can see the cover pages. So today, in fact, we have been publishing this container market report with India focus for the last 10 years. So over this 10 years period, we have been collecting very authentic data from all the container terminals in India. So for the first time, we thought we will extend this study to the entire South Asia region. And this is the first report that we have collected some data from the neighboring countries as well. Some of the data, it is very difficult to get because being the first time and sharing data, it is not very well structured in some of the terminals. So since this is the first attempt, we managed to get some data, but I think we will be improving in the years to come. So since afternoon, we have been talking about port infrastructure, how the supply is growing in anticipation of the demand that would come in the near future. So I would not like to dwell more on that because that was extensively discussed. But just to give you an overview, this is the macroeconomic picture that in front of us. The GDP growth rates as per the latest figures, as per the World Bank, because this will have direct correlation to the container market. So this is an overview of the supply of terminal that is coming into play up to 2026. So this shows the capacity in million tons and the throughput and the utilization percentage. So on an average, like 2 million TEUs are being added every year, and accordingly 2 million plus or minus TEUs throughput is also growing till 2026. So this shows in the South Asia region what is the capacity share, and as you can see, Sri Lanka is the leading of the pack with a very ambitious expansion plan for the port infrastructure. So this I would not get into the details because we have passed that COVID situation. But when we talk about freight rates, so freight rates started coming down, but they are not back to the pre-COVID rates. That's what happening. We can say since they have reached the historical high levels, what we see now is only a normalization of the rates, but still comparatively they are 150% more than what we have seen. But here, as a complementary to what my previous speaker mentioned about the liner connectivity, I don't have a slide to show that, but there are some significant changes that are happening in liner connectivity. So shipping lines successfully responded to the fast changing market dynamics, sometimes by very high blank sailing and sometimes by deploying extra loaders, and could maintain historically high freight rates on all major trade routes. Following are some of the recent trends observed. So the regional trade responded a drop in capacity in the last year as a result of cascading to deep sea trades. Total capacity deployed on intra-European services is down by 14% year on year in August 22. Similarly, deployment on the intra-Asia declined by 10%. The rise in total capacity of non-cellular ships to deep sea liner services increased by 21% year on year in August 22. The Trans-Pacific route received the most ships in the last 2 years as port congestion on US West Coast ports sustained for too long in 2021. And that opened up new opportunities for new entrants like regional non-cellular carriers. When you come to South Asia, among all South Asian routes, trade with the US has significantly increased in the last 2.5 years, and so has the shipping capacity. Thus, net capacity has increased by 110% westbound and approximately 150% eastbound between January 2020 and August 2022. The second largest trade route, South Asia to Europe, experienced 19% net capacity addition for westbound during the same period. So this is only a slide to give you an insight on how today even the geopolitical issues also can influence the cargo move, because in two instances we have seen a dip in export imports in rift with China, as well as the recent Russia-Ukraine war also has its own impact on the exports imports. Of course, sometimes some opportunities also come out of it, because as you can see from here, though the traditional exports are down, but this war gave an opportunity for India to do a lot of huge wheat exports. Now I'm going to give you a country-wise brief into the infrastructure that is coming up. So this slide gives you how the Indian throughput is moving across the years. So you can see the growth is 20% year on year, though it went down to 6%, but registered 20% year on year growth, and the CAGR across 2016 to 2021 is about 8.6%. So the non-major ports, what we call the government-owned ports, are steadily losing to the private ports because of their aggressive marketing, the efficiency, the automation that is coming up. So most of the West Coast ports have gained. In fact, from JNPT, Mundra has taken away a huge chunk of share from JNPT in cargo handling. When you compare East Coast ports with West Coast ports, we have been expecting that in the last decade that eastern ports also will grow, but we don't see any growth of cargo handling happening at the eastern ports. So this is a terminal ranking that we do year on year. All these 15 terminals on the West Coast and the 12 terminals on the East Coast, as per the throughput, we rank them and compare year on year how they have fared, whether they are non-movers or they have moved up in the ranking. So the green number indicates that they have moved up in the ranking. Red indicates that they have gone down. So this is all depends on. If you see Adani terminal at Mundra and APMT Mumbai have considerably moved up in their position. They remained 1 and 2, but the BMCT, the PSA terminal, has considerably moved from 5th position to 3rd position. Similarly, on the East Coast, we have seen terminals also slightly improving. This is again the throughput versus the growth rates. So these are the terminals which are in high throughput and high growth, medium throughput and low growth kind of a statistics. This just give you an insight into the top exports and imports, which we do cargo mapping, including the commodity wise also we have the data, so that when we want to know where the major shipments are going and all that. This is Bangladesh. Bangladesh is handling about 3.26 million TEUs, mostly Chittagong port. The installed capacity is 3.7 million TEUs. But Bangladesh is also, as I mentioned earlier, they are in an expansion spree, though things are moving a bit slow. Patanga terminal started adding some capacities, and Bay terminal, which is about 2 years away from now, will add about 500,000 TEUs. But what is happening is, after the opening of Padma Bridge, the ready-made garment exporters started using Mongla port because it has become closer to them, where the Dhaka to Chittagong is about 240 kilometers, whereas the Mongla port is 170 kilometers. So they started using Mongla because now the transportation has become easier. Sri Lanka, I will not dwell much on this because it is like carrying coal to the Newcastle. You all know what is happening in Sri Lanka, and extensively in the afternoon presentations also, we have seen how the infrastructure is growing. This is Pakistan. For the first time, we got some data from Pakistan. So the port of Qasim and Karachi port put together, they are handling about total throughput of 3.49 million TEUs. But Pakistan also, the growth was very sluggish during 2016 and 17, but it started picking up from 2019-20. Nepal, again, being a landlocked country, mostly dependent on India. They use Visakhapatnam and Calcutta ports. But they are opening up more and more land borders. There are also a lot of reforms happening in terms of custom clearances. But still, some of the roadblocks or the road transportation is still a problem with a lot of difficulties. Even they recently about China blocked one connectivity road into Nepal. So that caused a lot of difficulty for the Nepal exporters, importers, with the cargo movement stuck for months together, which created huge losses for the traders as well. Bhutan, again, small country, mostly dependent on India for its cargo. Maldives. So Maldives have these 4 ports or terminals, and they handle about 129,892 TEUs. So they also have some expansion plans with one port they are looking at building in the near future. So transshipment is one thing that we have been discussing about Sri Lanka. So Sri Lanka, with all its strength, it is still a top destination for transportation. But what is happening is there is some competition is also coming up. Though, however, we say it is complementary. Now there are new trends are coming up. Countries have aspirations to have their own transshipment facilities. Then most of the countries are looking at direct services. In fact, COVID, the congestion, everything made countries to look inward and then see whether they can benefit by cutting down the time and cost, inviting direct calls and all that. It is not an immediate threat to Sri Lanka's potentiality as a transshipment hub, but what could happen is we need to observe how the trends are changing. Just to give you an example, we have been talking about this Valarpadam transshipment for long. Now the dredging is happening, it is delayed, Vizhinjam port is delayed. But one significant thing is, like the southern India shippers, traditionally who use Colombo as a transshipment service, so they recently started sending some of the cargo to Navasheva because there is now a train service started. PSA has started a train service picking up the cargo from the hinterland of South India and then transporting is, which is considerably cutting down the time. So these are some of the things that we need to look into how things will change. In fact, when you look at Bangladesh also, there are a lot of direct services they are looking at, because during the COVID time, a lot of they are stuck with Singapore, Sri Lanka, Malaysia, and the skyrocketing freight costs they have looked at. And then, to my knowledge, with the help of local foreign shipping companies, now the Chittagong port opened up direct shipping services out of 15 to 20 major routes. So, so this is one thing. You can see the countries also. I don't think it's clearly visible, but they have established it with Italy, Copper Port in Slovenia. So all these foreign links. This is very close to our heart to be in. Apart from looking at all these connections, intra-South Asia trade is very, very low even today, less than 5%, whereas the other regions intra-trade, as you can see, is 60%, 35%, and 25%. So within South Asia region, we have a lot of potentiality to the trade to grow. So we should focus on more increase in our South Asia intra-trade. Thank you very much.
Thank you too very much for taking the trouble to share all of those details and help us appreciate the value that again accrues in this region. Now we have as our guest of honor, as was mentioned previously, the Honorable Minister of Foreign Affairs, Ali Sabri, and we'd like to have a perspective from him.
Honorable Minister of Ports and Shipping, Honorable former Speaker Sakaru Jayasuriya, Samasa Korala, and the other members of the organizing committee, Your Excellencies, the ambassadors, and the members of the diplomatic community, our guests from various parts of the world, welcome to Sri Lanka and thank you for patronizing this. Ladies and gentlemen, first of all, I must congratulate the organizing committee who have put a lot of efforts in organizing Colombo International Maritime and Logistic Conference. Nature of a huge conference of this nature because of the love you all have for the country and the need to transform this. So you have taken it upon yourself to do it. I congratulate you and wish you well in this conference and all the participants. It is very, very important. I think most of the facts, details, technical knowledge and all, I'm not going to dwell. Better people are here for the next few days for you to do. But there is some perspective what I would like to share with you with a little bit of insight which I have had in governing last 2 months, 2 years in the cabinet. First of all, I think it is, as a lot of people have said, it is time that we go beyond this strategic location talk. We have been talking about the strategic location for too long, and everybody knows about it. I think there is nothing more to dwell on that. Gone are the days where I remember when we started doing some basic marketing and economics at the early age. People have been saying if you are looking at a business, there are few important things to look at it. That is location, location, and location. But it's not true, it's no longer true. Location probably one of the very critical important thing that I think God has given us, nature has given us. But beyond that, there are a lot of other things to be done. That is, how do you promote yourself? What are the laws in place? How do you invite the people? Are you inviting people or sending them away? So these are the issues I think we need to be very careful on that. I think it's important. One of my good friends in one of the advanced economies was telling me, what we have done well is to replicate by looking at other areas. In other words, he was too diplomatic, but he is saying they have copied better. So I don't think that we need to reinvent the wheel. It's available everywhere. It is waste of our time to try to reinvent it. It's available everywhere, and you need to research, get it right, and adopt it to what is right for us in order to win the competition. In that, it's important we all know what is to be done. I think you know the location, you know the challenges, you know what is to be run. But the problem that we don't know is a team and a mechanism which blend together with the government officials and the private sector to implement it. And that is what is lacking. I'm sure with expertise like you know what is to be done, you know what are the shortcomings, you know what the competitors have, you know what is we yet to do. But unfortunately, for whatever the reason, it's not getting done for different reasons. 3 areas I remember in the cabinet, Honorable Minister of Shipping will tell us or will witness. 3 areas, how the pseudo-nationalist or who are without proper knowledge or experience or pragmatic solution blocked investment to ports in Colombo, investment to port in sustainable energy, and our request to go to IMF early. He was there, Minister was there in the cabinet. We have been fighting for last 1.5 years there until it's too late. So pseudo-nationalism comes in. And then they get told of people who are ignorant. And our media play a part, going and get voice cut from the people who have knowledge, but somebody who have no knowledge at all. If you go and ask people who have no knowledge at all about economy, about investment, they will definitely go and tell something negative. So there is a huge responsibility on all of us to get that proper message communicated. It's very, very important we do that. And I also thought government should take their hands off of doing business. Gone are the days that government doing business. Government should be a facilitator, a regulator, a provider of logistics, and allow the private sector to compete. That's how all the countries have developed. The more you hold on to this, the more difficult for you to get these transformations done. You don't need to change of a government. When the secretary changes, things changes. When the chairman changes, things changes. When minister changes, things changes. How could you run? For example, there was one institution, CEB. So there was a period where a good chairman was there, good minister was there, lot of discipline. Other minister comes and recruit 4,000 people in 4 years. How do you run? So this is, I think, too long we have experimented with this. Government shouldn't do business, and particularly in our country. In some countries can, yes. That is because there is certainty of term. The same system goes on for a long, long period of time. But in our country, minister changes, elections comes, you need to give jobs. And they pack the government public service from 600,000 in 1994 to 1.5 million now. So 90% of our tax revenue goes for pensions, salaries, and samurdhi. So how to run a country. So therefore, these are areas that I think it's time. I would suggest it's important is to get a mechanism going on, This is an area which we have neglected, along with the public sector and the private sector. Get together and identify these areas and share your knowledge and get it done, because it's impossible to do it alone. That passion, the knowledge, the connection is impossible for the government to do it alone. So it's important that the government and the private sector and the chambers get together and do it. Now, for example, when I took over the Ministry of Justice, we appointed 5 subcommittees: criminal law reform, civil law reform, and commercial law reform, digitalization, and court reforms. Now, next 10th, we get 10 laws passed, all those that we initiated. On the 8th, 10 laws we are arguing. Last week we had 5 laws. Altogether, we were able to do it in 1.5 years, about 80 laws, new laws coming in, with the participation of the lawyers from our private bar. 325 lawyers took part, all voluntarily. For example, the constitution draft was done, I don't know if it will come or not, headed by Mr. Ramesh Tisilla, all free of charge, and not a rupee he charged. We visited a court called the long-standing issues like how we give properties on lease you can take over for a long period of time. A new law is coming in, which was drafted totally by the private sector, led by Mr. Palitha Kumarasinghe, President's Council. There is a new law which we are introducing that comes on the 10th, called Small Claim Court. Small Claim Court is for 30,000, 40,000 recovery of credit card. You need to sometime litigate for 10 years. Now we are introducing a small claim court where no evidence is given, only on the basis of affidavit. So should be within 6 months, within maximum a year, you should be able to do it. That's the bulk of the civil litigation in this country. The idea is once you do that and reduce that, the more important cases can be heard faster and more efficiently. And then the lease agreement special provisions also is to have a timeline of 9 to 12 months to remove people who are unlawfully occupying the leasehold properties. It is possible. We need to work together. Unfortunately, what happened during the last 6-9 months, so many other things got overshadowed. But that's not good enough. As Mr. Masakorala said, this is the time we must work even harder to get our country out of this. And in doing so, I think we should all get together and work harder. So areas of importance, I think we need to get together with the government, with the public sector, with the private sector, with the expertise, identify the areas, have timelines, put subcommittees, and get that done. I remember when I was heading the Cabinet Subcommittee on Express Pearl disaster fighting, Secretary is here, I realized that we don't have a disaster management facility in this country. A slightest issue on that Blue Diamond, New Diamond, as well as on the Pearl, the Express Pearl, we don't have that facilities. The slightest thing we had to rely on our friends, India, Singapore also. Our laws are outdated, and some of the treaties we have not signed for years. I think it's time that we sit and one by one get it executed. So I don't intend to take much of your time, but once again, I must thank all of you for your continuous support, continuous enthusiasm in doing what you want to do. And I'm sure when you start slowly pushing this, we can slowly gain where it is required to be gained. And from the Ministry of Foreign Affairs, I met the chambers recently. I also met some of your industry people as to what we can do. And we are there, and our Economic Affairs Division had been we have revamped that. We are trying to get a little more people to come in. We are also looking at getting Sri Lankans who are all over the world to work as Sri Lankans as an honorary diplomatic corps on voluntary service, because with 200 people in the diplomatic service, very difficult to do everything but is required to be done. So we are there to help, and as from the Foreign Ministry, there is anything to be done, we can sit, discuss, and promote our country, because that's our duty. So I'm not going to take any more time. I thought it's also important, before I wind up, it is appropriate to quote William Arthur Ward and that famous quote, "The pessimist complained about the wind, the optimists expect it to change. The realists adjust the sails." I think we'll become realist and get it adjusted. Thank you.
Thank you to Honourable Minister. And now we have as our chief guest the Honourable Minister of Ports and Shipping and Aviation. So we'd like to invite, with respect, Mr. Nimal Siripala de Silva.
Good evening, everybody. Honorable Karujaya Surya, our former Speaker of Sri Lanka, and your patron, my cabinet colleague, Mr. Ali Sabri, the Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the vibrant organizer, Masa Korala, and his team, distinguished invitees, ladies and gentlemen. It is indeed a great pleasure and privilege for me this evening to participate in the Colombo International Maritime and Logistic Conference organized by your able organizer, Mr. Masa Korala, and your team. I'm thankful to him. I don't agree with all the perceptions he comes and talk with me, but I appreciate his courage and his knowledge in this field. And we are thankful to all the foreign dignitaries who have come here, who are in the field of maritime industry. We are very much thankful to you for sharing your experience and sharing our difficulties also. That is very vital. A lot of people are asking that though Sri Lanka is geographically situated in a place where we have a lot of advantages to convert Sri Lanka into a maritime hub, why can't we do that? They say, look at Singapore, look at Dubai, look at Malaysia. Why not in Sri Lanka? But basically, you have to understand the political system. When it comes to Singapore, Lee Kuan Yew, he decides the thing today, tomorrow it's being implemented. Mahathir Mohamad is the same way. In Dubai, no trade union action, no trade unions, and there will be industrial peace all the time. But we are being dictated by the West. And many strong nations that we should comply with all the democratic norms. You must give the trade union rights. You must listen to them. You can't suppress them. At the same time, they are asking us to deliver. So you have to understand how a small country like ours being dictated by the international community. So we bow to them, we respect them, but in our economic efforts, we are moving very slow. But within the framework of democracy, we have changed a lot. Sri Lanka has a great history, maritime history, and our forefathers, in fact, they went and invaded Burma, went to India, and we were a proud maritime nation if you go through the history of Sri Lanka. But our ports in the present context it was a traditional port. The transshipment came only in the 70s in a small way. But now we are transforming ourselves, compete with Dubai, with India, Singapore. We are moving forward with a lot of difficulties. I must say, for example, our ports were controlled by the government. Now we have departed step by step. We invited the Sri Lankan private sector. They came with foreign partners. Now we have only one terminal fully controlled by Sri Lankan government, the Port Authority. We invited India. Adani Group came. Now we are inaugurating the Western Terminal on the 9th. We have given them full authority. And in the same time, we have to satisfy our trade unions also. I call it a trade union terminal. It is Eastern Terminal with all the foreign investors were eyeing for that. Everybody wanted Eastern Terminal. But the public pressure was that the government has to keep it. And now I am trying my best to find investment for that. So every penny, every dollar I get, I put it into a separate account in order to have the industrial peace within the port. And there is a perception that the maritime industry must be fully liberalized, some says. We have liberalized it. All our monopolies have gone now. But there are certain areas in the same time. First, the country has to survive. The political system has to survive. And we have to look after our own people. The people who are in this industry for so long. The shipping agents, Sri Lankan, because we want to ensure to strengthen the Sri Lankan business community. Because what is the use? Opening up is very good, but there must be a benefit to the country also. Not that I am against foreign investment. We have made enough room for foreign investment. But in the same time, Sri Lankan business community in the maritime sector should have the strength and courage to invest in these sectors and become maritime entrepreneurs also. Not only running casinos and making money, but why not in the maritime sector? Then we are sending so many housemaids to Middle East and many other countries. Our foreign employment used to bring us about $8 billion a year. Now that has reduced. You take a nation like Philippines, 10% of their foreign employees are seafarers. But we being an island and situated in the best location in the Indian Ocean, we don't have even 1% seafarers in this country. So for the young people in this country, in order to ensure that they are employed, they can earn money, we have not train them. Not only that, they have no opportunity. Because there are, Ajit is there, our director of merchant shipping, he knows. I always fight with him. Though we have so many seafarers trained, but they have no ships to get their apprenticeship done. So those are the factors. Anybody can say, why can't Sri Lanka do well? Why can't you train these people? Why can't you find jobs? But there are constraints when we are a small nation. If it's a big nation, nobody can challenge. When you are a small nation, the order of the day is that people try to exploit you. So therefore, government has a duty to protect our entrepreneurs while paving way for the foreign investment. They can come into partnerships. Now, for example, in the port of Colombo, the bunkering facility is very much limited. When I took over this ministry, I found it must be, I thought it must be expanded. Now we have called for a very transparent expression of interest to bring more bunker fuel to Sri Lanka, for which purpose now I am evacuating some of the employees from their houses and providing them alternative accommodation and giving 6 plots of land for the private entrepreneurs, Sri Lankan or foreign, no problem. So we are in the correct path. And in the same time, we have some shortcomings in our maritime industry here. We have digitalized many parts of this industry, but of course, unfortunately, still we don't have a port community system. ADB is helping us. They have just concluded their report on how to establish this system, and I am very much interested, and I am dedicated to ensure that port community system will come into play within a very short period of time. So that is our roadmap. And in the same time, we are developing Trincomalee Port. 1 month ago, Cabinet approved the development plan to make it an industrial port. And in Gaul, we want to make it a tourist port, marina, hub. And we have already called for expression of interest. There are few foreign investors who are interested, and I think my secretary and them are very busy in evaluating their proposals. And Port of Kankasanture, KKS, we are grateful to the Indian government. They have given us seed money for the expansion of that port. Sri Lankan part we have finished, but in the Indian part, they have to do certain other things with the Exim Bank, etc. And we want to ensure that port also being developed. So therefore, we have not left any stone unturned in order to improve the maritime industry. And we are facing, economic crisis at the moment. So we need foreign exchange. Therefore, it is very important that the maritime industry in Sri Lanka is very vital to us. So, and in the same time, in providing other services to the ships, etc., we are expanding those facilities also. But of course, as correctly said by my cabinet colleague. When we work with the government sector, if it is totally private, there is not a single port in Sri Lanka where it has been fully privatized. But in many parts of the world, the ports have been privatized. So they have the liberty to take business decisions and do it very quickly. But whereas in Sri Lanka, we have not yet come to that stage. If we try to do that also, we don't know what will happen to the government. So we have to go step by step. So therefore, I'm sure Sri Lanka can attract the shipping lines. But of course, in the same time, our shipping agents here and people who are in the shipping industry also must cooperate with us and encourage us. From my ministry and from the government, we have a strong leader, because all these things, nobody will come to this country unless there is a political stability. So that is very vital. So what happened during the last few months? There was no political stability in the country, and there was not a single leader who came forward and say, I will rescue this country, I will take the challenge. Only leader was Honorable Ranil Wickremesinghe. Without any hesitation, he took up the challenge. So, therefore, I think we are looking positively. We must look at positively. And we are confident that with all the negative factors which are there, Sri Lanka will be able to make Sri Lanka the maritime hub, the Indian Ocean. Thank you very much.
The Honourable Minister has treated us to a review of the pro and the con with regard to the maritime industry, and also provided us a rationale as to why sometimes, in the context of things, it is ho ho, hemming, hemming. Well, we're waiting. And now we would like to invite our chief guest on stage, along with the guest of honor, the Honourable Minister of Foreign Affairs, and the chairman of the organizing committee, Mr. Rohan Masakorala. We have a very, and patron, yes, certainly, Mr. Jayasuri as well. Yes, we have a very pleasant task that they will together perform. They're arrayed here for a very specific purpose, which until this very moment, hardly anyone, in fact, no one knew. But we're very happy to invite on stage to receive a very special memento, Mr. Hanif Yusuf. And while they're here, I think there is a publication that will also be handed? Yes. Right. So earlier on, we were able to hear Ravi Ramprasad, the editor-in-chief of Gateway Media, and the publication that he's responsible for to be handed over to some of the people here, and no doubt some others will also have access to the same publication later on. South Asia Report and the Gateway, the Maritime Gateway magazine, or the journal. So you already have an idea of what it contains because we heard Ravi speak on the same topic earlier on. Yes, so we are using the moment now to formally hand over some of the copies on stage. And that brings us to the formal conclusion of this inaugural. And I think we are capturing the moment, aren't we, with the cameras? Okay. So just after that, after they've done, we will invite everyone to move towards their seat, and the conclusion will be signaled with the national anthem of Sri Lanka. So that's the conclusion of the inaugural, but Connecting Oceans, Creating Value Chains, the conference continues tomorrow. And the sessions will be there beginning in the morning.